today I'm going to be showing you guys my completed, well, 95% completed master bathroom. I also did my spare bedroom bathroom, and I really liked the way that that turned out too. So I'm going to be showing you guys. I'm pretty excited about it, and I'm going to be showing you how to get this exact look for around $250 per bathroom. So I used a lot of the same supplies for each bathroom. So I'm really excited to show you guys and show you how to do it. All right, guys. So I'm going to show you around my bathroom. Um, let's see. So one of the things we did that was made a big difference was replace all of the outlets with black. It just stands out, it looks a lot better. And then we just added some nice flat white fresh paint. And I got this poster from like AliExpress for like dollars. Let's see, we put up an IKEA shelf. So that made a difference, gave me some more storage. And I'm gonna add some like type of paintings or something to the wall so it won't be as bland over here. But I resurfaced the tub and I did a video on that, or you should see that in this video. And then I'm still gonna change around the decor. I'm not sure exactly how I want it yet, but this is good for now until I figure it out. And then we have the redone vanity that I used the epoxy kit for, the marble epoxy kit. And I have my finished vanity that I just painted with black paint and fixed the and replaced the knobs to gold. I'm probably gonna change out this light because I'm not totally in love with it, but that's for another day. And these mirrors I purchased from Lowe's and I just repainted them to the color that I liked. And some of the soap dispensers came from Target and stuff like that. And this was already here from the last house, this mirror, this pull-out one, and I just painted it, spray painted it gold and put a clear covering over it and made it what I wanted. So I did the same thing here with the racks. I just repainted them. And I make sure you always sand down first, wipe down, and just repaint them the color of your choosing. So this kind of worked out for me. You can see my bathroom. And I'm pretty content with it. And like I said, I'm gonna do some more decor in here, but for the most part, I'm pretty happy with it.
All right, guys, so you want to make sure that you start off with prepping the area. You want to make sure you take a cleanser and really clean and get in those nook and crannies so you'll have a nice clean area to work on. You definitely want to take your time with this part of the process because you don't want any debris on the area that you're going to be applying the epoxy. You also want to make sure that you take a box cutter and remove any existing caulking or silicone or anything like that. You also can use wood filler to fill in any imperfections that you see on your countertop. Here you'll see me take a Brillo pad and kind of just go over the area again, making sure I really scrub the areas that have some maybe hard on caked up buildup. So you see me going with the Brillo pad and going over it once more just to make sure the area is really clean. You want to make sure that after you use the Brillo pad that you again clean once over the area, making sure that you don't have any leftover debris. This is the epoxy kit I used for both bathrooms, and I still had another kit left over for one more. So I went ahead and took my painter's tape and went ahead and taped off all the areas around the corner that I don't want to be exposed to the paint, including my vanity. So it's a good idea to get a drop cloth and kind of put it over anything that you don't want being exposed, because this stuff once it dries it's nearly impossible to get off. You want to make sure you mix the primer well before applying and that you use the brush that was supplied in the kit. You start off with your sides and you work in small sections, working down towards the actual counter. You then can use the roller brush it came with and go over the flat surfaces of the counter, working in small sections. And after the first coat, you're going to let that dry for at least 4 hours before you go over it again with your second coat. You want to take your sponge brush that you can reuse after you washed it, and you just want to make sure that you go over any areas that are lacking, and then take your roller brush and go over the flat surfaces, just making sure you have a nice even finish. You want to work in small sections still, and then you want this to dry for at least 4 hours before you go on to the next section. While your epoxy is drying, you can go ahead and look up different variations of marble to see what you want your lines to look like. Now we're going to go on to the section of creating your marble lines, and yes, you have to draw on your marble lines. I did not know that before purchasing, but it wasn't too hard. Just following the instructions, you can create a good look for yourself. The kit does come with a practice kit, so you can practice drawing your lines before you actually start. So you're going to take your brush and take the gray paint that came with it and actually start creating your lines, and you're going to use the mist bottle that came with it and spray water on top of where your lines are going, and kind of just take that cornered brush and brush it out and get the good marble effect lines that you want. If you don't like what you created, you can always spray it with water and take your rag. My mom would kill me if she heard me saying rag. Take your washcloth and wipe away what you just did, and then you can start over again until you get what you want. So for me, this is definitely the longest process of the whole entire thing, because you just want your lines to look realistic. So I didn't get into a good groove until the middle, where I learned to kind of just take that brush and manipulate the gray paint back and forth to kind of just get that faded look so that it looks more realistic. But you should definitely take your time on this part.
Okay, don't mess with it. Just leave it. It's fine. It's angled right.
So here you'll see me mixing my activator and epoxy resin together, and you have to mix for exactly 3 minutes and 15 seconds. Before you even start this process, you want to make sure you have at least 3-4 hours blocked off to be able to ensure that this goes properly. Before applying your epoxy, you want to make sure that you've at least waited 4 hours for your counters to dry, and that you've taken a 600 grit sandpaper and sanded down those rough areas that may have came about after painting. Make sure you clean only with water after that, and then you can begin mixing your epoxy and applying it. So I just took the center of it and applied a nice thick layer, and then you see me going through with my brush provided and just kind of spreading the epoxy all over, making sure I get a nice even coat. Try not to overwork one area, because the epoxy itself will self-level. You just have to worry about getting it over all of your surface, and try not to get it in the sinks. I probably should have put something over that sink so I won't have to worry about epoxy getting in there. Before you apply your epoxy with your roller, you want to delint the roller by just rolling it over the sticky side of your painter's tape. Right now, I'm just going through my edges with the supplied paintbrush, but after, I'm going to take my roller and I'm going to go back over it and kind of even out those surfaces of epoxy, making sure to have a nice even coat. After you're done with this step, you can take a set of tweezers and go through and pick up any debris that may have fallen into the epoxy and release any air bubbles. And you can do that for up to an hour. After that, you shouldn't go with those tweezers and mess with it. So after I'm done, I'm going to let it dry for 1 to 2 hours and then remove my painter's tape. But you must do it within that time frame. You can use your countertops lightly after 48 hours and it'll be fully cured after 7 days. So next we're going to move on to painting our cabinets. You're going to remove the existing doors and hinges. So you can see that my countertops have all kind of junk on top of it. I'm still moving in. But you can see that it turned out nice and shiny, and I waited 7 days to actually fully use the counters. So then I decided after that was dry to move on to the cabinets. I decided to quit using the power drill and use a hand screwdriver because the screws were stripped and I wanted to try to do my best not to make it worse. So once you get your cabinets removed, you're going to go ahead and put a drop cloth down. And I just painted mine in my bathroom because I was lazy and it was easier for me to do it there. But I just put a drop cloth down and put the cabinets on top of something that I can easily paint on. And I sanded them down, cleaned up using a vacuum, and I wiped down to get rid of all the debris. I then went ahead and taped off all areas I didn't want any black paint on and applied my Rust-Oleum premium latex paint to the wood. I used the same can of paint for both bathrooms, so that really saved me money as well. Apply 2 coats and let it dry, remove the tape, and begin changing out your knobs. These mirrors I already owned, so I just sanded them down and repainted them with this spray paint I always use for everything and painted them the color I wanted. So here it looks a lot better in black to me. I did the same thing with the accessories in the bathroom. Now I'm going to get started on the tub. I'm going to by removing all of my baby's junk. This is the kit that I bought. It's called Tough as Tile. It came with some scouring pads, gloves, cleaner, brushes, everything you'll need to get started except for painter's tape and a tarp. So we're going to start the process off by prepping the area, cleaning with a nice mold and mildew remover cleaner. I'm going to spray it down, take my SOS pad that came with it, and really get in there and remove all the gunk and grime. The packet came with like a Brillo pad and a steel wool pad, so I'm cleaning it down with the Brillo and washing it, wiping it down, and then I'll go again and use the steel wool pad and go through and remove any debris. Here you're gonna see me take the cleaning powder it came with, mix it with some warm water, and just go over the surface with that. This part is probably the most annoying part of the whole process. It's just really annoying. You want to make sure that you are also in a well ventilated area. My bathroom was not really ventilated well, but the chemicals the fumes that come off of this kit is like literally ridiculous. So when you get started, you want to make sure that you have the windows up, you have air flowing through, and that you wear your mask. So once you're done cleaning, you want to make sure you dry off the area, and then you can begin to tape off any areas that you don't want this paint to touch. I actually ended up running out of painter's tape, so I bought the wrong kind of tape. I wasn't paying attention, and the tape on the floor is actually duct tape, but it actually ended up working. So here I'm going to mix the paint, and this is just going to be the only can of paint that comes with it. So no need to prime it, it's all together. I'm going to take the brush that came in the kit, and I'm going to start applying the paint to the tile. So that's a no-no. You don't want to just start off like how I did in the beginning, because I didn't know what I was going for there. But once I got the hang of it, because this stuff is like it dries so quick. So once you start in one area and you try to like go back over it, it's gonna start peeling and it's not gonna look good. So when you start working small sections, and try not to go over what you've already painted, because it's not gonna turn out good. So once I understood that, I just started going in the creases first, painting in the creases, and then working on to do like a quick over paint over in the actual square, and hurry up and moving on to the next section, because it just dries so fast. And you don't want to try to cover everything on your first coat. Just apply a thin layer first, and it's gonna look bad at first, but remember, you can always go over it. So this is me starting on the second coat, so I'm going to do the same process as I did for the first coat. So as you can see, once you start to apply that second coat, it's going to look a lot better. But one thing I did do that I wish I hadn't is use the brushes that come with the kit. I ended up doing a third like touch up coat because I still saw some bare spots. But I used one of my own paint brushes that I had previously used on a project, and it ended up giving off a little different kind of tint. So just make sure that you use a brand new paintbrush anytime you're starting on a new coat. And in between coats, you want to let it dry for at least 3 hours before starting on a new coat. I did about 3 coats on my bathtub, and that practically used up the whole can. You also want to let the paint dry for at least 48 hours before you try removing the painter's tape. This is the third coat. So now I'm going to take a razor blade and just go, sorry, my head's in the way. Excuse my head. I'm going to take a razor blade and go along the edges of the tape and kind of loosen it up, so it'll be easier for me to pull off the tape without pulling off the paint. Now you just want to get some tub and towel waterproof caulk to go around the edge of the tub and seal it off. Good. Hey, you see my bathroom? You like my bathroom, Callie? You like it? I know, it's so cute. You like it or you love it? You love it? Here you'll just see where we filled in some holes in the wall with
putty and had my husband sand it over to make sure we get a nice smooth look. And this is the before. And this is the beautiful after. I love it.